fire meant that early man was able to come out of his cave. But even today, man's control over fire is imperfect and fragile. While fire is indispensable to our existence, it is also the cause of injury, destruction, and loss of life. Negligence can often trigger a catastrophe, which could happen to any of us when we least expect it. We must know exactly what to do in case of fire. You discover the beginning of a fire. First and foremost, remain calm. Panic leads nowhere.
Fire! Fire! Fire!
Keep your cool. After warning those around you, sound the alarm. If you must use a phone to alert the fire department, speak calmly and clearly.
7 Fire Department.
Hello? There's a fire at my neighbor's. Can you please come quick?
Please.
Don't just hang up. The firefighters must get the right information. Give the number or the name of the building. Specify the location and type of fire. Give your name and wait until you are instructed to hang up before doing so. It's a good idea to program the fire station's number in the one-touch speed dial memory of your phone. The individual who discovered the fire must be available to tell the firefighters where to go as soon as they arrive. At this stage, every second counts. The firefighters have no time to waste. Your involvement may help limit the damage and save lives. Large fires always start as little ones. A spark, a flame, or simply contact with a hot object may begin a fire. If you're able to contain a fire which is just starting, you may prevent a catastrophe. To evaluate your capacity to put out a fire, you must know what the extinguishers at your disposal can and cannot do. The first portable fire extinguishers were developed towards the end of the 19th century. These extinguishers have become more effective as we learned more about the nature of fire. Fire is a chemical reaction between any substance that can catch fire or a combustible and oxygen in the air. When a certain degree of heat is combined with combustible substances and oxygen, ignition occurs. To illustrate this phenomenon, we use a pyramidal geometric figure known as the fire tetrahedron. The first side represents oxygen, the second combustible substance, and the third heat. The base, which joins these three components, symbolizes the chemical reaction that occurs. If one of the sides is eliminated, combustion cannot continue. To extinguish a fire, you have to take at least one of the following three steps: cool off the area on fire, remove the combustibles, or cut off the flow of oxygen to the area on fire. While the heat and oxygen components always remain more or less the same, there are a wide variety of combustible materials. In order to fight a fire, you have to know what is burning. The American National Fire Protection Association has divided fires into 4 categories. Class A fires are the easiest ones to identify. They are the type of fire which needs a solid combustible like wood, paper, plastic material, or fabric. You can put out a Class A fire by using a pressurized water extinguisher. It's one of the most common types of extinguishers. The bottle is filled with water up to the appropriate level and is then pressurized. When you operate the extinguisher, the compressed air pushes the water into the siphon tube and out the hose nozzle. Place the extinguisher on the ground, hold firmly, and turn the security pin to break the seal, which is your guarantee that the device has not been used since it was last recharged. Pull the pin. The extinguisher is now ready to be used. Make sure that it is in working order. Get as close to the fire as possible without putting yourself at risk. The maximum range of a pressurized water extinguisher does not exceed 8 meters. First, stop the fire from spreading. Then bring the situation under control. Spray water at the base where the flames start, working from alternate sides of the fire. The effect of the water is to cool off the burning combustibles, thereby eliminating one component of the fire tetrahedron. In addition, the vapor produced by this operation partly isolates the fire from its source of oxygen. When the flames begin to die down, move closer to the fire and place your thumb just above the tip of the nozzle. This will produce a thin mist of water to put out the cinders. Misting the cinders is safer than spraying them with a full jet of water. If sprayed too directly, some cinders may scatter and start other fires. Pressurized water extinguishers are effective but have one significant limitation. They can only be used on Class A fires. Class B fires burn combustibles such as flammable liquids like gasoline, oil, oil-based paint, or gas like propane and natural gas. Rubber is a special case. When the fire starts, it's still solid and is therefore a Class A fire combustible. But like certain plastic materials, it assumes a liquid state because of the heat and then becomes a Class B fire combustible. To control this Class B fire, Private Newman is going to use a BC dry chemical extinguisher. He could also use a more versatile ABC extinguisher. These two extinguishers can be used in approximately the same way. The difference between each type is the dry chemical they contain. For BC extinguishers, the propulsive gas used here is nitrogen. When you use the extinguisher, the gas pushes the dry chemical in the siphon tube and out the nozzle. Dry chemical extinguishers must be recharged as soon as possible after being used, even if only part of their contents was ejected. This type of extinguisher will quickly run out of dry chemical. It will last at best 30 seconds, so you must know exactly what to do. If you are outdoors and it is possible, place yourself with your back to the wind when you try and put out the fire. Let the wind carry the dry chemical to the fire. Remain at least 3 meters away from the fire. The dry chemical breaks the chemical chain reaction of the tetrahedron. Stop spraying as soon as the fire seems to have died down. You may need the rest of the dry chemical later. Stay alert, the fire could start again. You must never use a pressurized water extinguisher to put out Class B fires. Gasoline, grease, and oil float on water. You would merely spread the fire. Class C fires are caused by overload or short circuits in electrical appliances. To fight this fire, Private Richards will use a carbon dioxide extinguisher. In the case of carbon dioxide extinguishers, the chemical agent used to put out the fire is pressurized gas. It is particularly effective against Class B and C fires. The liquid CO2 is stored up in a heavy metal container and pressurized up to 6,200 kilopascals. When you operate the extinguisher, the liquid CO2 enters the siphon tube and flows up to the projection nozzle. It then quickly expands and assumes a gaseous state, producing a cooling effect. As with the dry chemical extinguishers, the CO2 devices empty very quickly. You will only have enough for a maximum of 30 seconds. Furthermore, their range is limited to approximately 1 meter. You must therefore attack the fire from up close. Spray the gas with a sweeping motion. Start by attacking the area closest to you. The gas will eliminate the oxygen side of the tetrahedron. Stay alert. The fire might not be completely out. The materials are still producing heat. One spark could be all it takes to start the fire again. Since carbon dioxide gas displaces the oxygen in the air, be careful when using a CO2 extinguisher in a closed space. In the case of Class C fires, electricity makes things even more dangerous. When the power is switched off, these fires fall into the A or B category, depending on the circumstances. You must therefore start by switching off the electricity whenever possible. Certain metals such as magnesium, titanium, and even steel can catch on fire. These are Class D fires, and they are not as common as other types of fire. Specialized extinguishers like the Metal X are used to fight these fires. Fighting a fire is serious business. If you discover a fire, evaluate the situation. Avoid putting yourself at risk. Taking care of one's own safety is not a lack of courage. If you get the feeling that you won't be able to control the fire with the extinguishers at your disposal, leave immediately and close off the dangerous area. Every year, fire is the cause of injuries and fatalities which could have been avoided. It also causes considerable material damage. And since the Department of National Defense properties cannot be insured, all Canadian citizens end up paying the bill. Fire prevention, therefore, is everyone's responsibility. However, on an individual basis, you are responsible for your own actions and property. In case of fire, you must bear the cost of any damage you cause. It is therefore essential and inexpensive to protect yourself from claims by buying a fire insurance policy. For the national defense, fire prevention is an important issue. We devote many hours to the training of all employees. Fire prevention must become everyone's business. Don't take chances with fire. And if you think it only happens to others, well then remember one thing. You are the others.